مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم 2 فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أأتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغن عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون. وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون. والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم. والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم. لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون. وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون. وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين. وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون. وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين. وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا ونطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين. ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون. ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون. قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون. إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون. فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون. إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم. وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم. ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون. هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون. اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون. ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون. ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون. ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون. وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويهق القول على الكافرين. أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون. وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند مهضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد إلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات سورة المباركة الفاتحة بسم الله الرحمن
Shukriya, Brother Walji. That was a beautiful recitation. If I can kindly request Mehdi Mirza to read Hadith-e-Qissa.
Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Before we start Hadith-e-Qissa, would request you to please recite Surah Fatiha for Marhuma Tehseen Fatima Jafri. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل والله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي عن فاطمة الزهراء عليه السلام بنت رسول الله قال سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة فقلت عليك السلام قال إني أجد في بدني ضعفا فقلت له أعزك بالله يا بتاه من الضعف فقال يا فاطمة أيتيني بالكساء اليماني فاغتيني به فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فاغتيته به وسرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولد الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال يا أمه إني أشم عندك راهية طيبة كأنها راهية جدي رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جده يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أدخل معكما تحت الكساء وقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي يا صاحب حوزي قد أذنت لك فدخل معه تحت الكساء اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولد الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال لي يا أمه إني أشم عندك راهية طيبة كأنها راهية جدي رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جده السلام عليك يا من اختار الله وتأذن لي أن أدخل معكما تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي يا شافع أمتي قد أذنت لك فدخل معهما تحت الكساء فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله فقلت عليك السلام يا أبو الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك راهية طيبة كأنها راهية أخي وابن أمي رسول الله فقلت نعم ها هو وما ولديك تحت الكساء فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء قال له عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي قد أذنت لك فدخل علي تحت الكساء ثم أتيتنا والكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا بتاه يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي يا بازتي قد أذنت لك فدخلت تحت الكساء فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وأومأ بيده اليماني إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وهامتي لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي يويلمني ما يويلمهم ويازني ما يازنهم أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عادهم ومحب لمن أحبهم إنهم مني وأنا منهم فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي يا سكان السماوات إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مزية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل يا رب ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيتي ونبوتي ومعدن رسالتي هم فاطمة وأبوها وبالها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل يا رب أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله العلي الأعلى. يقرق السلام ويقصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مزية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم. وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وهي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لأبي أن الله قد أوحى عليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محفل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي عليه السلام إذن والله فزنا وفاز شيطنا ورب الكعبة. وقال أبي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محفل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله همه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام إذن والله فزنا وسيدنا وكذلك شئتنا فازوا في سيدوا وفي الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
I'd like to kindly request my brother Kamran Heather to say a few words on behalf of the family. He will be joined by Amina, who is the Marhuma's youngest granddaughter. Salawat.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For those that may not know, I am Marhuma Tehseen Jafri's nephew on my late father's side, Sayyid Nisar Haider. Standing with me is one of her youngest granddaughters, Amina, who would also like to say something at the end. The family asked me to share a few words on their behalf, and I will do my best to speak about the wonderful person she was. However, I know that no words can fully capture everything she meant to everyone. If I miss anything, I hope the family and relatives will forgive me. There's so much love and so many memories that it's impossible to cover them all in this short time. Ummi cherished her life in the UK. It is in the USA, her second home, filled with family and friends, that she has been laid to rest. A place where her warmth, her generosity, and her spirit touched so many. We're deeply grateful for the outpouring of love, the messages, and the support we've received during this time. Ummi was a woman who radiated love. She always wore a smile, and her words were filled with kindness for everyone she met. She had a unique way of making people feel at home, and food was her love language. Whether it was a comforting meal or a perfectly brewed cup of tea, she fed not just our bodies, but our hearts. Her home was never without laughter, warmth, and the delicious aroma of something cooking in the kitchen. You could never leave her home hungry. She wouldn't allow for it. Ummi's life was a testament to love and service. She moved to London in 1969 when she married Qasim Raza Jafri and made it her home. She built a life there and created a community that adored her. So many people carry a piece of her with them. The love she shared, the wisdom she imparted, and the generosity of her heart. Her faith was central to her life. She deeply loved the Ahl Bayt and remained a strong, devoted Muslim throughout her days, and embodying the principles and teachings of her faith in everything she did. Her kindness, generosity, and forgiving nature were true reflections of her devotion to Islam, and she consistently sought to live in a way that honored the values of the Ahl Bayt. In her, we saw the essence of faith lived out in everyday actions. She was always the first to offer help, advice, or prayers for anyone and everyone. Never did she speak an unkind word about anyone. She always defended others and gave them the benefit of the doubt, choosing to see the good in everyone, no matter the situation. Her heart was vast and forgiving, and she embodied the qualities of patience and grace. Ummi had a way of making everyone feel special. She showered everyone with love, no matter who you were or how long she had known you. It didn't matter your age, she would make you feel like her closest friend, and she loved without condition. Her laugh, her smile, her love, they will live on in all of us. The words cannot capture how deeply she is missed. We know that her spirit remains with us all. In every act of kindness that we offer, every prayer we say, and every memory we hold dear. The family would like to thank you all for being here today, to honor and remember my Popo and their Ummi. She is forever in our hearts. I'm going to pass to Amina to say a few words. You want to say something?
Assalamu alaikum everybody. Thank you for coming to my grandma's Majlis. Things I like about her was that I miss her because she taught me how to make roti and her hug was warm and loving. Thank you for listening. Bulantar salawat.
Allahumma salli ala.
Such loving words. You know, the Marhuma, she was a pious, noble, and loving lady. You know, may her akhlaq, her iman, and her good deeds accompany her as she now embarks upon her onward journey. With that, I'd like to request my brother Imran Haider to recite source and salam. Salawat.
اللهم the family of my aunt, and indeed the extended family, are understandably heartbroken. However, in moments such as these, as is our tradition, we do not mourn our own, but instead we mourn the one for whom there was no one to mourn. In this way, we hope to console the heart of Janab Sayyida, and in so doing, inshallah, obtain a measure of peace ourselves. Par Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. سلامی کہتے تھے آدا رلاؤ زینب کو سلامی کہتے تھے آدا رلاؤ زینب کو سرے حسین سنا پر دکھاؤ زینب کو حسین امام کو تم نے کیا تھا جیسے شہید حسین امام کو تم نے کیا تھا جیسے شہید ہاں وہی خون برا خنجر سنگھاؤ زینب کو ہاں وہی خون برا خنجر سنگھاؤ زینب کو سلامی کہتے تھے آدا صلوات صلی علی محمد وآل محمد. کیا اندھیرا ہے پھوپھی خانے میں سکینہ یہ بیاں کرتی تھی، کیا اندھیرا ہے پھوپھی، کیا اندھیرا ہے پھوپھی، شمع منگوائیے ورنہ میں نہیں جینے کی، کیا اندھیرا ہے پھوپھی، کیا اندھیرا ہے پھوپھی، اپنے سینے سے لگا لو میں تمہارے صدقے، گود میں لے لو مجھے، گود میں لے لو مجھے، ورنہ پچھتاؤ گی، زندہ نہیں رہوں گی میں کبھی، کیا اندھیرا ہے پھوپھی، کیا اندھیرا ہے پھوپھی، آج کی شب کو بھی کیا بابا نہیں آئیں گے، مجھ کو تڑپائیں گے، مجھ کو تڑپائیں گے، ان کے سینے پہ اگر سوتی تو نیند آ جاتی، کیا اندھیرا ہے پھوپھی، کیا اندھیرا ہے پھوپھی، بابا آ جاتے تو پھر شمر کو ہوتا معلوم، کون ہے یہ معصوم، کون ہے یہ معصوم، کیا سمجھ کر مجھے یوں گھرکیاں دیتا ہے شکی، کیا اندھیرا ہے پھوپھی، کیا اندھیرا ہے پھوپھی، پانی لانے کو کہاں روٹھ گیا مجھ سے چچا، آپ ہی سوچیں ذرا، آپ ہی سوچیں ذرا، ہوتے اموں تو میں اس طرح تماچے کاتی، کیا اندھیرا ہے پھوپھی، کیا اندھیرا ہے پھوپھی، قید خانے میں سکینہ یہ بیاں کرتی تھی، کیا اندھیرا ہے پھوپھی، کیا اندھیرا ہے پھوپھی، پر محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللہ وسلم.
If I can kindly ask Shaykh Ali Hadi now to approach the member to recite the Majalis. Bawazimba and Salawat.
الله عليه. بقية الله في الأراضين حجة ابن الحسن روحي وأرواحنا لتراب مقدمه الفداء الذي بيمنه رزق الوراء وبوجوده ثبتت الأرض والسماء. At the very beginning of this Majlis Tarheem, I would like to initially do dua for all of the marhumeen and marhumat, and specifically for those marhumeen and marhumat whom this Majlis is being organized for, and specifically Marhuma, Tehseen, Fatima, Jafri, Rahmatullah alayha, and alongside with her name, there are multiple names of the marhumeen which the family have requested me to recite a Fatiha for: Sayyid Zamir Hussain and Ghazun Fari Begum, Sayyid Nisar Haidar, Sayyid Waqar Haidar, Tasneem Fatima, Sayyid Qaim Ali Jafri, Mahmouda Begum, Sayyid Hashim Raza Jafri, and Razia Ifat Zahra. Remembering all of these marhumeen, marhumat, and remembering all of the marhumeen, marhumat who are alongside with their family. Remembering all of them recite a Surah Al-Mubarakatul Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Malik Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. اللهم صل صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على. Today, as we have gathered for Marhuma Maghfoor, as this is a Majlis Tarheem. Majlis Tarheem means that Majlis, or that place where a rahmat is sent to the soul of the one who is deceased. The one who has left this dunya, he is in requirement, or she is in requirement of rahmat, of mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That person is in requirement of the maghfirat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the a'mal of those people associated to the marhuma or the marhum, it has a direct association of the quality or the kayfiyat of the person's akhirah or the aqibah. Alongside with the a'mal that that person has done, my a'mal also have a direct association with the person who has left this dunya, if I'm related to that person specifically. So which is why we gather today in a majlis like this, in a place like this, where we do the dhikr of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and it becomes a form of rahmat. This becomes a form of rahmat for the person who has left this dunya. And we can just see for ourselves that the person who has left this dunya, there are people today who are sitting within inside of a majlis, doing the dhikr of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and they are upholding a majlis. Alongside with that, they are doing the dhikr of Karbala within inside of this majlis. This shows that within inside of the life of the marhuma or the marhum, whomever this Majlis Tarheem is going to be for, it shows that their life was directly connected to the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu salam. That they left behind such a legacy where their family members, where the ahl and ayal, how do they remember them? How would they like to uphold their remembrance? Not in the form of a memorial at a grave, not at the form of a memorial inside of a house. Rather, they would like to keep a majlis for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salatu salam. This shows that somebody within sight of their life, they had a communication with the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. They had a love for the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu salam. And the Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, he says, "Man mata ala hubb ali Muhammadin mata shahida," that the one who dies with the love of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu salam has died a shaheed, has died a martyr within inside of this world. But the ones who have left us behind in this world, dear mu'mineen, mu'minat, who are gathered in this Majlis at-Tarheem, they are the ones who have opened their eyes to a reality. They are the ones who have opened their lives to the eternal life that is promised to us within inside of the Quran, that eternal life that we all have an understanding, that eternal life that we all are waiting for within inside of this world. However, we may be heedless about the fact that our hereafter is coming to us very soon and our aqibat will be eternal. We do not understand that because we are limited human beings. But many people think to themselves, maybe children have this doubt, that death is the end of everything. Death is the end of all. Death is where everything turns into a black mystery, where it's darkness. Nothing remains after that. Our aqeedah, dear mu'mineen, mu'minat, is that this dunya is that darkness that we apprehend about death, and death is that life which we think about, which is inside of this dunya. The life after death is what we consider to be hayat in this world, and that darkness which we think about, which is the hereafter, that darkness we think about, which is within inside of our grave, is this dunya itself. This is our aqeedah. This is our belief. Hereafter is eternity. Hereafter is where the life is. But the truth about death and maut is, mu'mineen, mu'minat, that it doesn't require me to prove Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't require somebody to prove the Prophet, peace be upon him, for his nubuwwat. It doesn't require somebody to prove Islam to be the true madhab for you to accept death. Everybody in this dunya accepts maut. Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. The Quran says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that every single soul shall taste death in this world, whether that be an atheist, whether that be a non-Muslim, whether that be a Muslim of the different factions of the world. Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. Whether you believe it or not, death will come and take you. It doesn't require you to have a faith. So there's no excuse for anybody about death. Death is a universal law. It doesn't see a Nabi. Death does not see an Imam. Death does not see a Wali or an Alim, for example, or a Naib of Imam al-Zaman. No. Death, it takes everybody. Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. And Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, alayhi salatu salam, he says in a hadith, An-nasu yanamun, that people are asleep in this dunya. فَإِذَا مَاتُوا انْتَهَبُوا, but when they die, when they leave this dunya, their eyes awaken up from this sleep and this slumber that they are in within inside of this dunya. But the wish of those who have left this dunya, dear mu'mineen, mu'minat, they have one wish within inside of their grave. We all will have this one wish when we go within inside of our graves as well. And that is how we can wish to come back to the dunya to correct ourselves, to do islah of our a'mal, to correct my characteristic, to correct my life. This is one wish that everybody has within inside of their graves. That, Ya Allah, allow me to return to this dunya so I can do islah of my a'mal. So this nama a'mal that you presented to me, that the angels have come and brought to me, that I've lived this 70 years, 60 years, 50 years, 40 years, all of these a'mal that you've listed over here, I would like to correct all of them. This is one wish that everybody has within inside of their qabr, within inside of their grave. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala summarizes our life our hayat within a few sentences within inside of the Quran, and I would like to share this today. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كَيْفَ تَكْفُرُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَكُنْتُمْ أَمْوَاتٌ فَأَحْيَاكُمْ. That how do you reject Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you were already dead, when you were absolutely nothing at the start? فَأَحْيَاكُمْ, and then I gave you life. ثُمَّ يُمِيتُكُمْ ثُمَّ يُحْيِيكُمْ, and then again I gave you the taste of death, and then again I resurrected you alive. وَإِلَيْنَا تُرْجَعُونَ وَثُمَّ إِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ, and then at the end you return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do you reject Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you know that this process exists within inside of this dunya? Millions and billions of people have left this dunya, have died in the past. But it's possible that we may ignore this reality all of our life. We may ignore this possibility that maybe next week our aqibat, our end has been written for next week. We may ignore this all of our life. And we have certain people that are afraid of death. Why are they afraid of death? And I would like to speak about this for a moment. That why are people afraid of maut? And the reason to why people are fearful of death, dear mu'min and mu'minat, is because of the attachment towards the dunya. And this is according to the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And I'd like to give a short example over here. If, for example, you place sellotape on the palm of your hand and you try to take it off really quickly, it's not going to really affect you because there's nothing attached to your skin on this side. But on the flip side, if you place sellotape, you'd be very fearful to rip it off really fast because of the fact there are hair that are attached to your skin at that side. So if you rip it off really fast, it will cause you pain, it will cause you harm. So you're going to do it very, very slowly. Similar to this, we are afraid of maut, we are afraid to death, because our nufus, our nafs, they are attached to this dunya, similar to the way our hairs are attached to our skin. This is why we are so attached to the dunya, and which is why we are so afraid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taking our lives away from us. Recite salawat all together, please. Allahumma salli ala. Al-kha'inu kha'ifun. The person who has done wrong, he will be in fear within inside of his life. You'll take an example of if somebody has committed a crime, na'udhu billah, within inside of society, he'll live a lot of his time in fear that he'll be prosecuted one day, he'll be taken into prison, he'll be taken into custody, he'll be taken into the court of law, where he'll be tried over there. Our souls and our spiritual beings are also afraid of this court of justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are also afraid that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will also take us into His court and test us as well. Which is why I would like to share poetry by Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. He has a very beautiful poetry which you all can follow up later on, and it's about death. He says, Ya man bidunyahu ishtaghal, qad gharrahu tulul amal, al-mawtu ya'ti baghtatan, wal-qabru sanduqul amal. This is a hadith by Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam in which he posed this in a form of poetry. It's so beautiful about death. He says, Ya man bidunyahu ishtaghal, O the one who is in search of the dunya, or the one who is busy with inside of his affairs in this world. قَدْ غَرَّهُ طُولُ الْأَمَلِ, the one who likes to make long plans for the future. He likes to make plans for the well-being of his children in the future. الْمَوْتُ يَأْتِي بَغْتَةً. Imam says that when death arrives, it arrives in the word he used, بَغْتَةً. بَغْتَةً means it comes in a split second. It does not give you a memo. It does not give you a reminder. It does not give you an email saying that you are going to go ahead and leave this dunya. Rather, when it comes, it will take you without you even knowing. Al-mawtu ya'ti baghtatan wal-qabru sanduqul amal. And the grave is the treasure box of your a'mal. This grave of yours that you will be laid rest into, that grave where you will be laying into for eternity, is your sanduqul amal, is a treasure box that you have been gathering all your life. Whatever a'mal you have, whatever actions you've done, this is where your amal will come to fruition over here. He says, Al-mautu ya'ti baghtatan. That when death arrives, it arrives within a split second. You know, when you drive and you're going on the motorway, for example, and sometimes you'll see like a random time where a stone will come and hit your windshield, and you flinch for a moment. That moment of flinching is also the resemblance of death. And I remember I was once in Iran when I was studying over there. This one taxi driver, he told me that I will never forget the time where he reminded me that he was driving once and a truck had come and hit him from the front. He said, the moment when I let go of the steering wheel and I closed my eyes, I thought I'd left this dunya. And he told me that that was the moment where I realized that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to take my life away from me from this dunya, He won't wait, He won't give me a time. Rather, it will come at any time within sight of this world. Somebody came to Marhum Ayatollah Mirza Shirazi rahmatullah alayh at the time when he was living in Karbala, and he asked him a very striking question. He says, we can ask this question for ourselves as well. He asks Ayatollah that if Malakul Maut had to come to you next week and take your life away from you, what would you do? What would you do if Malakul Maut had come to you and said to you that next week at this time I will come and take your life away from you? The response of Ayatollah Mirza Shirazi was that from a very young age of mine until today, I have been the khadim of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu salam. I have been a servant of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. I have dedicated my life towards ilm. I have dedicated my life towards ibadah. I have nothing to give in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala but all of these a'mal that I've done all my life. That was his response. However, we can question ourselves that if Malakul Maut had to come to you today and say that in the next few days or the next coming week, I will take your life away from you. Imagine the situation and the kayfiyat that many will be in. A lot of people will go into sajda, a lot of people will go into ibadah, a lot of people will go start reciting the Quran. They will leave their affairs of this dunya. But Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam says that death follows you similar to how your shadow follows you. Death follows you exactly the same way as your shadow follows you. But we do not realize that. We are in our ghaflat, we are in a heedlessness. We think that our life is eternal in this dunya. Everybody will leave this dunya. Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. And those people who have left this dunya, whom you can see their success in their akhirah, is the ones whom you recite a majlis for. The ones whom have left this dunya and you are still reciting a majlis tarheem for them. That shows that their life had some sort of success within inside of it. Where the children, where the offspring, where the families, they have got together and they said, we're going to keep a majlis, a azah for Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam in the remembrance of the marhuma, in the remembrance of the marhum. So remind yourselves and always keep remembering that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had to take my life away from me next week, very soon, as death is like a shadow to me, then what a'mal am I taking going forward? What characteristic do I have today if I had left this dunya? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take my life, then what exactly am I taking to the hereafter? It is narrated about Nabi Nuh alayhi salam that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to take his life away from him, the Prophet of Allah, he says to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the angels who had to take his life away, he says that, is this all life had to offer me? I hadn't lived for a very long time. Nabi Nuh alayhi salam, as we all know, he had the longest nubuwwat out of all of the prophets. 950 years he was a Nabi. 1,000 plus years he had lived as a human being by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when he had to leave this dunya, he says that my life was very short. And I did not realize that life was going to be this short. That Malakul Maut, he tells him according to this riwayah, that there will be people of the final times, of the Akhir al-Zaman, who will only live up to 60, 70 years. which is not even a fraction of your lifespan, Ya Nabi Nuh. The Prophet of Allah, Nabi Nuh alayhi salam, he says that 60, 70 years of life, that's not life. He says, if I had 60, 70 years worth of life, I would remain in sajda for my entire life. I would remain in ibadat for my entire life. I would remain in worship for my entire life. Nabi Nuh alayhi salam, he's talking about this. So, remembering our akhirah, dear mu'mineen, mu'minat, remembering our last stages of this dunya, sometimes our souls become stained from all of the sins that I have been committing, all of the wrongdoings that I've been committing within inside of my life. Remembering death, remembering maut, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he says that it is afdalul maw'idha, it is the best of all of the advices that one can give to their own selves, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take our lives away from us one day. But how will we leave this dunya? Would we leave as a shaheed? Would we leave as a martyr? Would we leave as somebody who has struggled for something? Or would we leave as somebody who died on their beds, who had died in an accident, who had died from an illness? And one of the shuhada from Gaza, who was just martyred very recently, if you see one of his videos, he says that I did not want to be somebody who died from cancer or somebody who died in a hospital bed. Rather, I want to die as somebody who had fought for a cause. I wanted to die as somebody who had died within inside of a battlefield, and somebody who had stood for something, who had stood against oppression. Some people have very high hopes and very high aspirations of what they want to be in the akhirah. Some people have absolutely no aspirations. Some people have no hopes of what they want to be in the hereafter. We need to keep a goal of what we want to be in the hereafter as well. Similar to how somebody says that I aspire to be a doctor one day, I aspire to be an engineer one day. I would like to be in a college, in a university, and I would like to make X amount of money within inside of my life. We should have an aspiration for our akhirah as well, at how I want my akhirah to be. Which is why we say in our du'as, which is why our Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam have taught us, Allahumma ja'al awaqiba umurana khayra. Oh Allah, allow my aqibat, allow my ending to be of khair. How many people do we have within inside of the tariq of Islam who have lived their entire lives in the servitude of Islam, but when they had left this dunya, they had left this dunya as a kafir? How many people in the entirety of Islam do we have, similar to Hur, who had blocked the water on Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam, who had stopped the horse of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in Karbala? He had committed some of the biggest crimes by bringing the army of Yazid. He was the commander of the army of Yazid. His aqibat, his akhirah was written as hellfire. But who did he become? He became hurrun fi dunya wal akhirah. That was the end of his life. The start, middle, close towards his end of his life was in servitude of Yazid, but his end, his aqibat, was with Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salatu wassalam. Therefore, the biggest dua we can do is that, Ya Allah, allow us to have a best end. Allow us to have an end within inside of our life that can be towards the khidmat of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Do not allow us to leave this dunya in the form of a disbeliever, in the form of a munafiq. Do not allow us to be somebody who has exited the parameters of the deen of Islam at the time of my death. Recite salawat all together, please. Allah. And at the end, I would just like to mention that what can one do for those who have already left this dunya? You know, because at the end of the day, every single family in this world has a marhum. It's impossible for some family to say, I have absolutely no marhumin. I have nobody who's been dead. Nobody has been deceased. Every single family, every single house in this world that exists, that is alive today, they have dead family members. They have dead relatives. Right? There's nobody in this room and this world that can claim that I have no dead relatives. What can I do for those people, for those family members, for those relatives, for those acquaintances who have left this dunya? What can I do for them? The Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He has a hadith, he says, Inna arwah al-mu'mineen, that surely the souls of the mu'mineen, ta'ti kulla jum'atin ila as-sama' ad-dunya, that they come, the souls of these marhumeen, they come on every single Thursday night into the skies of this dunya, and they come to the doors of their offspring, they come to the doors of their relatives or their children, whoever is next of kin for them inside of this world. These souls, they come back to this world. Yunadi kulla wahidin minhum. Each and every single one of them, unequivocally, they scream at the doors of their children, at the doors of their family members. Bisawtin hazinin baqeen. And they call out inside of, with a voice that is a distressful voice, a crying voice, a sorrowful voice. Ya ahli, ya waladi. O my family, O my children, wa ya abi, wa ya ummi. Some children will cry out to their parents, O my father, O my mother, i'tifu alayna yarhamakumullah. Have mercy on our souls, so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have mercy upon you. The Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, says that every single soul that has left this dunya, they come back into the skies of this dunya every Thursday night, and they complain to their families to have mercy upon them. اعتفوا علينا بدرهم أو برغيف أو بكسوة. Use this little bit of wealth that you have and distribute a bit of bread in our name so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can have mercy upon our souls. This is the hadith from the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. My dear brothers and sisters, if we want to help our family in our akhirah, in their hereafter, then for a son and for a daughter, the best amal that they can do that opens the difficulties of other people is giving a sadaqah jariyah for the marhum and marhuma. If you can give a charity that is continuous in the name of the marhuma, the name of the marhuma, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will continuously bless the grave of that person. This is the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the justice of Allah. That if you do one khair in this dunya, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you 10 back. Right? The accountability of our financial affairs is very different in this world. You give £10 in the way of sadaqah, you are losing £10. If you give £100 to the masjid, it's been minus from your account. But in the hereafter, if you give 10 in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will give you 1,000 back. The accountability of the hereafter works very differently to the accountability of the dunya. Therefore, one of the best a'mal that we can do is helping somebody else, opening the life of somebody else, their difficulties, removing it from their lives. If I cannot sponsor somebody else to go to ziyarah, if I cannot open the knots of somebody else's difficulties, then surely these majalis, this platform that we have over here with the remembrance and the dhikr of the Ahlul Bayt, the dhikr of Maut, and the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will surely benefit the souls of the marhum or the marhuma. If it is too difficult for me, dear mu'mineen, mu'minat, to spend some money in the way of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, then surely I can gather a small remembrance at my home. You know, sometimes we question ourselves that what ideas do I have? Not everybody has the financial capability to come and hold a majlis with inside of a mosque. Not everybody can do a sadaqah jariyah, open an orphanage, for example. The smallest thing you can do is gather a remembrance inside of your home, recite a Surah Al-Yasin, and recite a latmiyah, for example, a eulogy for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. This is enough to go ahead and bless the marhuma, marhuma. And similar to this majlis, for example, this is a brilliant way of allowing for the marhuma or the marhum to receive the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala within inside of their graves. Recite salawat all together, please. And at the end, I would like to just mention that if I can't do any of these things, then Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, Man qara'a inna anzalnah inda qabra mu'minin sab'a marrat. That whoever recites inna anzalnahu fi laylatul qadr at the grave or on the niyabat on the behalf of any deceased person بَعَثَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ مَلَكًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends down an angel from the heaven, يَعْبُدُ اللَّهُ عِنْدَ قَبْرِهِ, that starts to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala near that person's grave. وَيَكْتُبُ لَهُ وَلِلْمَيِّتِ الثَّوَابُ مَا يَعْمَلُ ذَلِكَ الْمَلِكِ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala writes down the thawab of the angels to the grave of the marhuma. Just by reciting 7 times, Inna anzalnahu fi laylatul qadr. You don't have to keep a majlis, you don't have to open an orphanage, you don't have to give a big sadaqah for that person's name. Just reciting Inna anzalna, it's free. It doesn't require any hazina, it doesn't require any cost. Sometimes maybe people think that we need to do something really, really big for the marhuma. No. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says that you can just recite Inna anzalna 7 times, and there will be an angel in the form of Inna anzalna coming down to the grave of that person. Which is why Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he says, Allahumma ghafir li al-dhunub allati tahbisu ad-du'a. Oh Allah, forgive me for the sins that have become a blockade for my dua between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Certain a'mal that we do within inside of our life, we need to review them, we need to see them, that which a'mal do I have within inside of my life that are becoming a blockage between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why aren't my du'as being accepted? There are certain things within inside of my life that I do that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is blocking me from my dua. At the end, I would like to just recite some verses of Masa'ib for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, as the days are very difficult for the mu'mineen and mu'minat of the world today. The Muslimeen are going through a very difficult time, and our marhumeen are leaving us one by one. Our great personalities are leaving us one by one, whether that be within the form of our family members, whether that be in the form of the shuhada of Islam as well. Everybody, it seems like, as if is boarding the caravan of Akhirah, and they are leaving this world. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, Sallallahu alayka ya Madloom, Sallallahu alayka ya Atshan. Brothers and sisters, if you go to Karbala, if you go to the ziyarat of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, you realize that the haram of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam is at a distance to the Khaymagah, is at a distance from the tents of the haram of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And on the right side of the haram of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas is the Kafful Yamin, or the right arm of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. And if you go on the left side of the haram, you will see his Kafful Yasar, or the left arm of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. And this tells us that on the day of Ashura, Abbas ibn Ali alayhi salam, he had given everything in the way of Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam. He had given everything to bring back water from the Furat towards the thirsty lips of Sakina salamullah alayha. And when the Usara, the captives, they had returned back to Medina, when they had come back, Bibi Ummul Baneen salamullah alayha, she had stood outside of the city limits of Medina, and she had awaited and did istiqbal of the caravan who had come back from Karbala. And when Bibi Zainab salamullah alayha had met Bibi Ummul Baneen, Bibi Ummul Baneen salamullah alayha had asked from her that, Ya Zainab Kubra, oh Zainab Kubra, your hair has turned white. What is the reason? What has happened that your hair has turned white? What is the reason that you look so much older from the time that you had left Medina? Bibi Zainab salamullah alayha, she says, Shayyibatnil Masa'ib, that all of the Masa'ib that I had seen in Karbala, all of the Masa'ib that I had seen in Sham, all of the Masa'ib that I had seen in Kufa, they had all gathered around me, and my hair has turned white due to these Masa'ib. And then all of the narrations of Karbala were told to Bibi Ummul Baneen salamullah alayha. Bibi Ummul Baneen, she says, what about my Abbas? What did my Abbas do with inside of Karbala? Did he show loyalty towards Hussein? What did Abbas do? And Bibi Zainab salamullah alayha, she says that Abbas, not only did he show loyalty, not only did he show wafa lil Hussein, rather he gave everything in the way of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. Bibi Baneen salamullah alayha, she goes to Baqi and she starts to make 4 graves of her sons who were martyred. 4 of Bibi Baneen salamullah alayha's sons, including Al-Amdar Karbala, were martyred within inside of Karbala. She starts to make 4 graves within inside of Baqi, and she starts to recite a Noha for Abul Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam. She says, Ya Abbas, I heard that they had cut your arms off when you went to go get water for Hussein. She says, Oh Abbas, I heard that they had hit a lance on your head that had allowed you to fall onto the ground. But oh Abbas, I had heard that they had fired an arrow inside of your eye. Is this true, Ya Bunayya? Oh my son Abbas, I had heard that they had taken you down in the harshest of all manners, and Hussein had come towards you and he had said, Ya Akhi, Ya Abul Fadl al-Abbas, Al-An inkasara dhahri, my back is broken, my spine is broken without you, Ya Abul Fadl al-Abbas, wa sallallahu alayka ya Abul Fadl al-Abbas. Let us recite a small ziyarat for Abi Abdullah alayhi salam and gift this thawab to the marhuma, inshallah. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah al-Husayn wa ala al-arwah allati حلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Everybody all together please. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات. تابع بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات إنك مجيب الدعوات، إنك قاضي الحاجات، إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين، واخذل الكفار والمشركين والمنافقين. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج، واجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره والمستشهدين بين يديه برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. صلوات.